Welcome to another edition of Wildcat Country. Eric Cohen and Shane Dale, and it's August, which means we are finally playing football. This month, well, Arizona's not, but other teams are, but at least training camp started. We're recording this on Wednesday, August 3rd, and that's when training camp began. So, Shane, we made it. We were worried about what to talk about. We always are in the summer.
We did have a little bit of filler with the whole, UCLA and USC leaving the conference and where's Arizona going to go, minor stuff, but give us something to talk about.
Yeah. Give us something to talk about. Like every week we had something interesting.
Yep. I was actually mentioning to someone the other day that, last year we had all the coaches firings and coach leaving and hirings, and that was like nonstop. And now this year we got the conference realignment madness. So even in the off season, we had no shortage of things to talk about, and our numbers for our podcast have reflected that. People want to see hopefully what we have to say, but we also have some fantastic guests, including the one we have today.
Yeah, the professor, Matt Moreno, going to join us. We are all going to go to class and learn from him. We'll find out about Arizona's football team, what happened to Kwame Evans and that recruitment, which I was telling Shane last week, oh, don't worry, we're going to have him on, he'll be on Arizona.
It looked like that's where we were headed, but, kids change their minds. It happens.
And we'll talk, I'm sure, conference realignment with Matt just to get his opinion on things. But first, it is time for Buy or Sell, which is presented by Ice Shaker. Check them out, iceshaker.com. And I had somebody ask me this week how they can buy one and what the promo code was. And I said, well, you obviously have not been listening to my promo every week on the show. Yeah. So it is promo code Wildcat Country, capital W, capital C, and you get $5 off. And if you want to hear more about their plans, check out last week's podcast with Chris Gronkowski, who is the founder and CEO of Ice Shaker. All right,
Jumbo Ice Shaker's coming soon because his brother Rob, who you may have heard of, decided, hey, these little bottles ain't going to work for me. I drink a lot of fluids out when I'm working out. So
that's right. So we need to get one of those once they are released.
Yes, we do.
All right. Number one, we had Pac-12 Media Day, Shane. So I wrote this one down the other day. George Kliavkoff came out, the commissioner of the Pac, whatever they are right now. The Pac said that the Pac-12 will secure a better media deal than the Big 12 when it's all said and done. Do you buy or sell that?
I'll sell it. I like his. Well, I don't know if it's so much confidence as in he has to portray strength here, and he's doing the best he possibly can to do it and say, hey, we're in great shape. They're talking about teams from the Pac-12 leaving. How about they should be worried about them coming over here? He didn't say exactly that, but he's trying to position it that way. So no, I don't necessarily buy that they're going to get a better deal without USC and UCLA. I think that and we'll get into this more too, some sort of merger might make sense, but I have a hard time believing that the Pac-12 in its current state without the LA schools is going to get a better deal than the Big 12, even without Texas and OU.
Yeah, well, you know what I'm going to say about this, so I even need to answer this. I think he's nuts. I know what he's trying to do, but it didn't work for me. No, the Pac-12, in my opinion, or Pac-10 or whatever they are not going to secure a better media deal. There are no teams that this conference is going to be able to bring in on the western half of the United States that are going to make it more valuable than what the LA schools were giving. You could add 10 schools, Boise State, BYU. I mean, you could steal from anybody. There's nothing west of the Mississippi that is more valuable than the California schools.
Yeah, we're just talking about talent and teams that are ranked and have had good years. I mean, that.
How about TV market?
Then sure, but yeah, we're talking about, but that's not what makes the college football world go around. It's the TV markets, and so Boise State's only going to add so much. Fresno State's only going to add so much in that regard.
Number two, the rumor is that all Pac-12 athletic departments are on board with keeping the conference stabilized. Do you buy or sell that apparent statement?
I buy that that's what everyone is saying publicly, but I would be shocked if there weren't phone calls being made. I think there's a little bit of who's going to blink first going on, because there has to be, right? You have to look out for it. Would be, I guarantee you this, Eric, there's no university athletic director in the remaining Pac-12 teams that's just content saying, yeah, we're all in this together. We're going to stick together,
Yeah.
and is not making any additional calls or exploring any additional options. They would be foolish not to. So on the one hand, you can meet and say, yeah, we're going to try to bring in some other teams. And maybe that is a possibility and something they're really working on. But you got to at least explore, like if you're Arizona, you have to at least explore the possibility of joining the Big 12. Or joining another. I mean, Big 12 really seems like the only realistic option for Arizona. And if you're actually going to join another conference, I know we talked about some sort of partnership with the ACC. I haven't heard anything about that in a while. So that seems like So the Big 12, either, I think the only two realistic options are Arizona joins the Big 12, or they peel off some Big 12 teams and they come over here. But yeah, maybe they are united, but we'll see. I think there have to be additional calls, emails, text, conversations being had.
Yeah. And, I know we had John Canzano on the other week, and I don't know who his sources are. I know he and John Wilner in the Bay Area are reporting everybody's united. I just cannot picture the Four Corner schools being the two from Arizona. At least Arizona, Utah, and Colorado aren't seriously considering saying, should we make the jump?
I guess the question is, can you be both? Can you be united and say we want to keep this conference together while also exploring other options? I guess it just depends on I feel like it's a bit of semantics, really.
Here's what it is. It's you're dating somebody, you're in a relationship with that person, and at the same time you have another side piece that you're talking to. That's what I believe that these schools are doing.
Did you agree to be exclusive or did not?
Yeah, you're in an exclusive relationship.
Okay.
Not married. Well, yeah, you're married. And I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I'm just telling you what I think is happening here. I think they're saying, yeah, we're together. You're putting on a face, to your significant other. Oh yeah, everything is good. And at the same time, you're behind their back. You're saying, okay,
what would you do in Dave Hickey's position? I mean, if you meet with the other schools and say, so, okay, let me back up. Basically what you're saying, Eric, is that this whole united thing, they don't really mean it. They're just saying it in public and they're all out for themselves.
Yes.
See, I actually think you can sort of straddle the fence here. I don't think it's a perfect analogy with the, being in a romantic.
No, that's the way I view it. I mean, I agree with that. And I am absolutely against cheating when it comes to relationships. Let me point that out. In this particular case, though, for Arizona, who may, is kind of worried, hey, my significant other may dump me. If Oregon and Washington leave, and then maybe Stanford and Cal, let's say the Big Ten wants to take all four of those, Arizona's left with nothing. So you know what? You got to look out for yourself here. And you got to, and I believe that Arizona should proactively be looking at the Big 12 for that reason.
You're saying you can't make a commitment and also, create a profile on Tinder at the same time, right?
Okay, that's fair. Number three.
How far do you want to stretch this analogy, Eric? I'm
just going to move on to the next one before we go on from that. Yes. Number three, let's transition to football with practice starting today when we're recording this. Jaden DeLora, the Washington State transfer, should be the unquestioned starter at quarterback going into training camp by herself.
I'll buy it. He should be. Now, I don't expect that to change. And Jed Fish, has said, and he's getting all the, the QB1 reps, and that's fine. I think that there should be a clear pecking order there. I think it's a little more clear cut. Certainly Noah Fafita might find a way to get onto the field, like our buddy Matt Moreno has talked about. Jordan McLeod may be in the mix, and I think he'd be a solid backup. But yeah, I think there's no way that based on what Arizona's quarterback situation was last year, which was a train wreck to put it nicely. You bring in the reigning Pac-12 offensive player freshman of the year. There's no way he's not the starter going into the season. So yeah, I'll absolutely buy it. And unless an earthquake happens during practice, a figurative earthquake, I can't imagine he won't be the guy taking the under center the first play of the season at San Diego State.
Oh yeah. Bye. Strong buy, very strong buy. Yes. Sorry, Jordan McLeod. Sorry, Gunnar Cruz. Sorry, Noah Fafita, who's probably not ready yet as a true freshman. Jaden DeLora is the right guy for this team. At the outset of this season, I'm really looking forward to watching him play in an Arizona uniform. It was a great get for Jed Fish. With that said, I also want to say that we've talked about Will Plummer, what's going on with him. He is out for a significant amount of time due to injury. I would not be surprised if he were back next year as maybe the third quarterback. which he would be, in kind of a coaching role. Maybe Will Plummer wants to become a coach.
Yeah.
I admire what he did during his time at Arizona last year.
So ton of respect for him.
Yep.
He's not a Power 5 starting quarterback.
Correct.
He's just not. But the guy toughed it out. He gave everything he could to the team. Ton of respect for him. I just don't ever want to see him playing in an Arizona uniform again. Sorry.
Yes, it should be Jaden DeLaura, Noah Fafita, and I will think that Jordan McLeod will probably transfer at some point. Again, just my hunch. I'd be surprised if he stuck around as a backup. Number 4, Shane, in your opinion, the optimism around the football program is the highest it's been since the first year of the Kevin Sumlin era, AKA when I was talking Rose Bowl. Buy or sell?
Probably. Yeah. I think that maybe the following year, but I think that the way that first season under Kevin Sumlin ended, and that collapse against ASU knocked them out of a bowl game, that put a sour taste in everyone's mouth that I don't think ever went away under Kevin Sumlin. They started the following season okay, and then they went on and lost 23 out of 24 or whatever it is. No, not all of those for Sumlin's. Last year was under Jed Fish, but yeah, I think it's crazy. And I tweeted about this the other day. It's that, you compare ASU and U of A as we do, because it's a rivalry thing. We do regardless of whether they're actually playing right now or not. ASU has beaten Arizona 5 times in a row, including the 70-7 game. They have been a better team each of the last several years than Arizona's had. And yet,
yes,
I would much rather be in Arizona's position right now than ASU's. I think most fans, all things being equal, would. And it's kind of crazy to say, considering Arizona's been so bad for so long, but you look at all the talent on this roster, and a lot of young guys. So I think you got to temper expectations. A lot of young guys combined with a tough schedule. I don't think that translates into a bowl game right away, but certainly the optimism. I think fans just want to see progress. 4 wins, including maybe a rivalry win, hopefully over ASU, and or an upset win in there over a ranked team. Not out of the realm of possibility. Consider Arizona almost did that against Utah last year. So yeah, I think the optimism, it's a low bar, unfortunately, but I think the optimism is as high as it's been since Kevin Sumlin was originally hired at Arizona.
I'm just feeling, and once again, I'm probably drinking the Kool-Aid, so obviously I'm buying this optimism thing. I feel like Arizona's going to win at least one of their first 2 games against San Diego State on the road or Mississippi State. Okay. There's just a gut feeling. Maybe I'm crazy. I think Arizona's going to win one of those games.
What do you think the attendance is going to be for that Mississippi State game?
Not great. I think it will have a 4 in
40,
front of
000? You think 40,000? I was thinking the over under 40,000. Yeah,
low 40s. I think you'll have, it's an 8:00 game. If it was a little bit earlier, it'd be one thing, but
I think. Go ahead.
No, I think you'll have a decent crowd there.
I think that performance against San Diego State will dictate some of that. If they come out and they shock San Diego State and they win that game, then I think that'll put at least a few thousand more butts in seats for the Mississippi State game, because it'll be big. It's a big non-conference game. I mean, for Arizona standards anyway, it's pretty big.
My bonus question this week, Shane, you're going to laugh at this one, but I was very upset last year at this end of third quarter song, this Kenny Chesney song that nobody knew. Yeah. Happy something, toes, happy something. I don't know what it was.
No one was happy at that stadium last
Nobody was happy. It deflated the energy. And the other thing they need to get rid of is that the alma mater where they had this choir sing, I mean, it like drained the stadium. So they got to do something about that. They changed the end of third quarter song to Don't Stop Believing. Good move. Are you buying that this is a good move, Shane?
I guess
is this the right song?
It's better than the last one, but no, I'll sell it. Our buddy Blair will sell.
Don't Stop Believing.
Well, I'll sell that. We need one. But why do we need a third quarter song?
It's good. It's you got.
Well, our buddy Blair Willis noted that the best traditions in football are the ones that kind of happened organically, right? Not the ones that are forced on. Oh, we're doing this. You think back to all the traditions at Arizona that we love. They just kind of, I think, happened over time. That it wasn't like we're like the athletic director or the coach saying we're doing this year. Like like the Zona Sway didn't catch on because it was dumb. The Kenny Chesney song was ridiculous. I liked what Jed Fish has done, but that of all the things he's done, that's probably the worst thing so far at Arizona, which is fine. That's the worst thing. That's fine, but
it wasn't great.
I don't think we need that. It's like if if somebody's going to become a tradition, I think it just needs to happen organically among the fans, or, in this day and age, maybe like a social media hashtag that catches on. I think that, we're doing this year. This is what we're doing. I just don't think that's the way to go about it. But Don't Stop Believing, not my favorite Journey song, but it's better than the one from last year.
Okay, fair. I do want to say this, in watching videos the other day, college football getting ramped up. I mean, Jump Around, obviously Wisconsin is great.
Right.
The very underrated is the Don't Back Down at it for Florida, the Tom Petty's Don't Back Down, how everybody sings along.
Oh,
and I feel
I won't back down.
I won't back down. Thank you. Jeez. My classic rock. Thank you. I won't back down. That is a really good, it's just cool how you have 80,000 people who are singing along. I just I hope that everybody at Arizona Stadium, if it's a good game, will do that. And maybe you're right, it starts something organically.
Now, I was just thinking randomly, a couple of hockey teams, when the St. Louis Blues won Stanley Cup a few years ago, during that season, they started playing this 80s, I don't know if you call it yacht rock or whatever. No, it's a pop song, Gloria, after games. Horrible song. But it became popular because it was like,
disco.
It was their song. It was
disco.
Kind of, yeah. But it was like, it became popular because it was their song. They kept winning. So everyone loved it because it was associated in their minds with winning. The Edmonton Oilers did the same thing with La Bamba last season. Okay. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And they didn't win a Stanley Cup, but they had a good playoff run. So everyone is like, we'll play La Bamba at the end of the game. So if Arizona has a great year, they have an unexpectedly great year, then maybe this becomes a fun tradition, but you just can't force it on people, especially when people associate it with the losing team.
My favorite thing that Arizona has done in the last 10 years, and I know other teams do it. There was a call, I think it was 2014, when Arizona was having the really good year with Scooby and Rich Rod and everybody like that. There was a call, I think it was against Washington, where Arizona got a fumble or whatnot, and they played "Let It Be." The Beatles.
I was there. Yes, I do, because we were all waiting for the decision. It looked like that game was over. Washington probably should have just taken a knee.
Yep.
And they ran the ball, and it was like a toss-up call on the field, and yet they're looking at the monitor. The referee was looking at the monitor to see what the call should be, and I remember singing along "Let It Be" with the.
And that is one thing that for a call that Arizona, where they rule it right on the field, and they want the Wildcats to keep it. I hope the sound team, somebody from that team, listens to Wildcat Country.
I miss having fun at that stadium, and that really 2014 was really the last time. Maybe 2017, with the Cool Tate, the month of October. But I miss having fun competitive games at that stadium. Maybe we'll have some again this year.
Shane, you and I haven't seen a win in person since September of 2019, because the one game I missed last year, of course, and I don't want to hear it from anybody. Arizona's going to win a game when I'm there this year.
They will.
If Arizona doesn't win a game when I am at the stadium, and I may go.
We're saving this. Go ahead.
I will strongly consider giving up my season tickets.
Oh, strongly consider.
I will. I'm serious.
You're all about the bold statements, Eric.
If they go 0-8 when I'm there, 0-7, it's probably time that I should stop going to football games. That's fair. Okay. Coming up next, the professor, Matt Moreno. Let's find out all of the news from him, including what happened with Kwame Evans here on Wildcat Country. Scooby, we sent you an ice shaker. They are a sponsor, courtesy of our buddy Chris Gronkowski. You have it right there.
I love my ice shaker. Fun fact, when I trained with Glenn Gronkowski, everybody, when we were trained together, people thought I was the other Gronk brother, so it's kind of funny. But yes, I love my ice shaker. It is very good. I use it every day. I am a veteran to the ice shaker game, by the way.
What's up, Wildcat Country? Chris Gronkowski here. Use coupon code Wildcat Country at iceshaker.com.
Shane, it's another episode with our friend, the professor, as I like to call him, Matt Moreno, joining us from Rivals.com. He's moving up the ladder so much that I don't even know what his title is these days. Matt, what's your title now? I can't even remember.
Pac-12 recruiting analyst for now.
Okay,
could soon be many conferences before the recruiting analyst part, but for the moment, for the next 2 years, Pac-12 recruiting analyst.
Well, we just stick with professor.
Yeah, the professor is much easier to remember. We'll get to the whole conference realignment thing, but I want to start with a big story that you would know better than anyone, and that's Kwame Evans. Shane and I had a recruiting guy on a couple months ago that said off the air, that was after we recorded, that said, yeah, it's pretty much done deal that he's going to Arizona. So don't even worry. And then he commits to Oregon this week, and we're like, what? So what happened with Mr. Evans?
In the months before your conversation, it was he's going to Oregon. It's a done deal. If you're an Oregon fan, don't worry about it because he's going to Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was for a very long time, that was the conversation. He took a visit there and the conversation was still like, hey, it's going to happen. It could very well happen very soon. And then Arizona decided, hey, maybe we want to be involved in this recruitment. He's pretty good. Tommy Lloyd has some connections to, some of his coaches. And so I thought, well, let's see what happens with Arizona. Let's see if they can do this. And sure enough, get him on campus, has a good time, likes Arizona. And that was the word for a really long time. But as I've been saying to a lot of people, this is why 5-star recruitments are difficult. I mean, there's just a lot of different layers to them, a lot more people involved than the typical, hey, a recruit, his parents, that's it, making a decision where he wants to go to school. In today's day and age, there's NIL stuff. There's all kinds of stuff in play.
Nike money, right? Nike money.
Sure. I mean, just NIL opportunities everywhere that everyone's going to be able to, it's all legal. It's all, part of within the rules. And, things can change. Things can change quickly. And so, it's all possible that everyone was wrong and that, maybe he is always going to Oregon. But, it really did feel like Arizona was the spot for a really long time. And I keep coming back to this, Tommy Lloyd doesn't necessarily enjoy all of this stuff that goes with recruiting. That's one of the reasons he stays off of Twitter and doesn't have a Twitter account and stuff like that. Because there's a lot of stuff that goes with it. And now it looks like, Arizona lost the recruit, but in the reality, KJ Evans knows the truth and knows what is, only he knows what he was thinking throughout this process. And obviously you can only talk to so many people and, gather as much information as you can. But even when you're talking to a recruit face-to-face, sometimes what they're telling you is not fully the truth. And so, it's one of those things where this is why Tommy Lloyd doesn't like this kind of stuff that comes with recruiting, because then it looks like, hey, you lost out on a recruit, but maybe he was always going to Oregon and that was just kind of going to be the plan. And so, 5-star recruitments are weird. And that's what I keep coming back to. They're very far from normal with NIL involved. They're very, very much different than, any other type of recruitment. A lot of guys lower on the totem pole will just pick a school because they like the school and all that stuff. And I think, KJ Evans really did like Oregon. I mean, like I said, that was going to be the pick for a really long time. That was the word was like, it is done. He's going to Oregon. And then Arizona came in there and, made a move. And it's a tough loss, but, it's one of those things that they'll just have to recover from. I think if Arizona fans should know anything about Tommy Lloyd, in the couple of years that he's been involved here and been coaching, or I guess a year or so, a little bit more than a year, but is that he has, things in the works. He's got international players that he could always go and get. They're always going to have options internationally. And obviously Cody Williams now comes into the picture a lot more, an in-state guy from Perry High School in Gilbert, and kind of plays a similar style to KJ Evans and has some similar size and starting to come up on the radar a little bit more. And, we'll see where things go with him. But I don't think that Arizona is, out of luck because they didn't land, Kwame Evans. I think there's some options there. And, KJ Lewis was visiting Arizona this week and he's very good. It's like if you get him in the class and you build some other pieces around him, it's going to be a very good class because he's very good. So I think Arizona is still on the right track. You got Boswell, who's coming in a year early. Going to get some work, probably means he's going to stay a little bit longer than, what a lot of, high level recruits would. And he's not going to be necessarily one and done guy because he's going to have to wait his time a little bit. So I think Arizona's in a fine spot. They'll be okay. And, it's just one of those things that it feels like Arizona fans like to point to the losses instead of the wins, but Arizona's, battled some teams and gotten some very good players already under Tommy Lloyd.
I think we should stop being shocked that 17 and 18-year-old kids change their minds. It happens. It's going to happen again. Sometimes it happens in Arizona's favor with T-Mac. So, it never. Along those lines, Matt, Kylan Boswell reclassifying. What do you think that means for the roster this season? And could he potentially challenge Kirk Kriisa for that starting point guard role?
I think coming in a year early is probably, one of those things where he looks at it now as a couple-year plan. It's going to take some time. I think he understands what the roster looks like. I think he's good enough to really challenge and get some time on the floor as a freshman. But you have to think back and, he was going to be a senior in high school. And so I think, he did deal with an injury over the summer and it kept him off the floor quite a bit. So I think that kind of played into the decision a little bit as well, where, if you get out to Arizona, you can get, in the hands of their doctors, their trainers, get you right, as opposed to, trying to do things on your own and go that path. So I think that's, played a part in this decision as well. But, I still think there's some things he needs to work on in his game. I think he's much more of a defensive player right now. And, the offensive game is coming along, but he can run a team. But I still think him coming in early, all it means is Arizona's going to have a player that sticks around a little bit longer than usual, at that level. And we all saw what happened with Ben, where he kind of had a really solid freshman season and then really kind of hit the stratosphere and became a lottery pick. And so in that second season, so I think it's a good plan for Kylan Boswell. I think, if you feel like your time has passed at high school and you're ready to move on and you're kind of over it and ready to move to college, I think he's someone who has the, type of talent to at least contribute. If he's okay with his role, I think it'll be a successful story for Arizona. And I think it wouldn't have happened unless everybody was on the same page about it. And so I do think he's going to have a chance to, at least push Kirk Kriisa, in practice and things like that. But at this point, I don't anticipate him being, the starter, but I do think he'll get a chance to play and showcase what he can do.
All right, Matt, let's pivot to football. We had the first practice of the season, even though it was, non-contact. We didn't learn a lot about those guys, obviously, but some positions that you're keeping an eye on, maybe position battles going into the season. We had Phil Steele on last week, and he mentioned that despite the great freshman at tailback that Arizona's brought in, he thinks Michael Wiley is likely to be the guy, at least to start the season. What are your thoughts on that? Maybe some other battles, potential position battles you're watching.
Yeah, I think running back offensively is definitely the one to pay attention to. You can't forget, and I brought this up, maybe the potential starter wasn't even on the field on the first day because he was finishing up getting cleared, and DJ Williams from Florida State. Arizona waited until the very, very end to bring him in. He started his career at Auburn. He was getting cleared on the first day of practice, so he wasn't able to go, but he was watching everything and he has good size and looks like he could be a contributor. Talking to Jed Fish last week at Pac-12 Media Day in LA, he kind of said that it's kind of Michael Wiley and DJ Williams and then everybody else. And I don't know that everybody else liked to hear what he had to say, but he said they should really focus on trying to become really great special teams players because that's how they're gonna start to get on the field. And so that's one thing about Jed Fish in year two that I'm starting to figure out, and as we're starting to see this thing play out, is he's becoming a lot more, hey, I'm this is how it's going. This is your role. This is how it's all going to play out, and being a lot more blunt about it. It feels like he hasn't been afraid to talk about starters and, hey, this guy's going to be the starter. And, a lot of coaches don't like to do that. And he didn't like to do that last year. Obviously, he was still learning the team last year, but that's the one thing so far. Jed Fish going into year two has been pretty, upfront about what's going on. And I think that's a good thing for the players. And they understand, hey, this is my role. This is what the coaches think of me. If I want to play more, I need to perform better in practice and, do the things, leading up to Saturday to get on the field on Saturday. And so the running back battle is definitely going to be an interesting one. There's a lot of pieces there. I look at that group and I go, man, that guy can play and that guy can play. I know that one can play. And so you have, Stevie Rocker and Jonah Coleman and Michael Wiley, like you mentioned. Then obviously Rayshon Speedy Luke is, had just arrived and a little bit smaller. So I don't know that he's going to be someone that's, toting the rock a whole bunch, but you look at his speed, it's in his name.
He's speedy for a reason.
Yeah. And you just go, that guy can help you in some way on this field. And so I think he's going to end up, catching a lot of passes during his time at Arizona. But, there's a lot of players there. And you forget about someone like Jalen John, who whenever he has been able to get on the field, he's been very productive.
Yeah.
It's just getting on the field. It's been the difficult part. And then, Drake Anderson is still back there too, as well. So you have a lot of different options. And so figuring out who's going to get to play. But right now, at least listening to what Jed Fish has had to say, it's the veteran guys and the guys who have been through the battles that are going to be the ones, carrying the load, and then they'll figure out how to fit in everybody else. But that's one interesting position to look at. Linebackers, another one that Jed Fish brought up on a local media day. Jerry Roberts coming off an injury. Malik Reed didn't participate in the spring very much. Those were going to be their two starters, kind of no questions. Those were going to be the guys, but now they're working their way back from injuries. Does it leave the door open a little bit for someone else to make a move? Colby Cage is someone who's come up quite a bit, came to Arizona kind of as a hybrid safety linebacker type, but because of the way they're, shifting the system and the scheme under Johnny Nansen, has to play more of a linebacker role. And Jed Fish said on the first day, hey, he's someone who's going to challenge for a starting job. And so there's some interesting options back there. Tyler Martin is obviously a highly touted recruit. was coming to Arizona to play for Don Brown. They were able to keep him despite Don Brown leaving. And
he's from Massachusetts, right? Tyler?
Massachusetts. Yeah, he made a long trip, long move across the country, and looks the part. I mean, he's a big dude, and so we'll see kind of how he fits. They're using him a little bit as a pass rusher as well. So we'll see how he kind of fits into things, but he's going to play some inside linebacker for Arizona to start. But there's a lot of intriguing options, and Ammon Allen is another one who just got put on scholarship recently, and another option for Arizona. So there's a lot of different players back there, and I think these next few weeks are really going to determine who ends up getting on the field and starting and at least contributing in some way.
All right, Matt, can you kind of explain to us how much better the talent is for Arizona on paper this year as compared to last year and maybe the couple years before that? It seems to us that it's significantly improved.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd say that's accurate. I mean, I think you just look up and down the roster and you just see the size of a lot of guys. I mean, Tyler Powell at tight end is like 6'7", and you saw him out there and you go, okay, this is different. This just looks different than what they've had before. I think if there's one thing that is very clear, and it will be very clear, if fans come out to practice or if once they watch the games on Saturdays, is going to be, whoa, this doesn't look like that team I've known for the last, decade or so that's been a little bit smaller than everybody it faces for the most part, especially when they get into conference season. You look across the field and you go, how are they so much bigger than Arizona? And obviously, Rich Rodriguez, his mantra was kind of just about speed, and that's all he was, mostly concerned about. And so a lot of the faster guys are smaller. And so, they're trying to kind of shift that. And, in some of their recruiting in this class, they're adding a lot of size. But just the guys on the roster right now, you just look across the board and you see T-Mac out there, you see Kean Burnett out there, AJ Jones, you just see, and even on defense, I mean, somebody that really, this week has really, everyone's like, whoa, I've seen him before, so I know it, but is Takario Davis, goes by Bobo, an interesting and fun nickname. When I was asking about him, when I first was, trying to figure out, watching a 7-on-7 who he was, and I was asking for Takario, asking some of his teammates and the coaches, and they're like, who? And they're like, oh, Bobo. And so Bobo is making some waves in the first week of practice, and just really, lanky and like 6'3", and look at Ephesians Prysock, and they have that similar size at cornerback where it just looks, I know Jed Fish has kind of talked about this a little bit where he wants to be the 33rd NFL team, but they're really trying to build an NFL style roster at the college level. Obviously you do that with the top talent, and there's still, some room to make up there, but in terms of the makeup of the players and what they look like, you can see what the direction of the program is and what he's trying to achieve. And it's have the biggest guys on the field, and everything else will follow. And so there's just, I think that's the one kind of thing that you notice if you start watching their practices, is there's a lot of size on this team.
Matt, what are your impressions of Jaden Delora so far? Not just we know how good he is and how good he can be, but just personality wise, like, does he strike you as a natural leader? What are your thoughts on him?
It's interesting. I mean, I've heard some different opinions from just talking to other people about him. Maybe he's a little bit too confident, but I said, hey, if you're the Pac-12 freshman of the year, you should be confident. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing for, an Arizona quarterback to say, this is my job. I've proven it already, and everyone else is going to have to fall in line, and I'm going to, this is my job. And so I think the leadership thing is something that has come up with Jed Fish, and on the first day he talked about that, that he wants him to become more of a vocal leader. I think he kind of just goes out there and does his thing and says, and everyone will see what I'm doing and kind of follow. So it does feel like there's that, they're going to need that nudge and that push to get him to be more of a vocal leader and be someone that really kind of rallies the troops. But as far as his play, I mean, he fits what they want to do. He's starting to, pick it up a little bit better. And he talked about that this week, that he's just, he was freelancing a little bit during the spring because he just didn't fully understand, all the concepts. And that was one of the things, last year when I first saw what Jed Fish was trying to do with his offense, I said, I think we even talked about it on the show, where it's just a little tricky. I mean, there's a lot to it. It's a pro style scheme. It's what, teams in the NFL want to do and what they run. And so there's a lot to it. There's a lot put on the quarterbacks to make sure it's all running well. I think now they have more of the weapons to do what Jed Fish wants to do. He says they're going to throw in some more wrinkles. I think because of, the talent upgrade that they've had and the players and the pieces they now have to do the things they want to do. But a lot is going to be put on Jaden Delora's shoulders, and it'll be very interesting to see kind of how he takes his team. But I think quietly behind closed doors, I think he enjoys, I'm the guy that everyone can look up to. It's just about getting that to translate to the field and being more vocal and really, being that guy that everyone wants to, be behind and, play for.
Matt, my last question for you. So since we talked, UCLA and USC have decided to bolt to the Big Ten. Probably a decision that was made a while ago. We learned about it pretty recently. Recruiting wise, in terms of football, how does this impact Arizona? Not talking about maybe where they end up or what teams might join the Pac-12, but just without USC and UCLA, how could this impact Arizona in terms of recruiting?
It's going to be very interesting. I mean, it kind of all does depend on what happens with them and where they go. I think a lot of coaches are saying, well, especially UCLA and USC, they're not afraid to talk about, hey, yeah, we understand we're going to have to play some different looking teams than what we're used to in the Pac-12. And so I think a lot depends on where Arizona ends up and whether it is, staying in the Pac, whatever it's going to be, or, making the move to the big, whatever it's going to be. I think it'll be very interesting. I think that not a whole lot will change right away. I think, Jed Fish really likes what they have going on in Southern California. I think regardless of where they're at, that's going to be a big area for Arizona to continue to recruit. Obviously, recruiting in state is going to continue to be a big deal. I don't think it would be a bad thing for Arizona to eventually make that move to the Big 12 and get somewhat of a foothold in Texas and be able to say, hey, we're going to play a lot of teams that are, within your region. Your family's going to get a chance to see you quite a bit. I don't think that would be a bad thing for Arizona to make that move because I think.
And by the way, Matt, sorry, real quick, Eric's grinning right now because he's been pro Big 10 since this whole thing happened. So
pro Big 12. Oh yeah,
Big 12, excuse me. Yes.
And I've been saying go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say everybody should be pro Big 10. I mean, that's if you can get into the Big 10, that's the move to make. I don't think that's in the cards for Arizona right now. So
no, I meant Big 12.
Yeah. But yeah, everybody should be pro Big 10. But the next best thing is Big 12. And I do think that, to me, you just look at the Pac-12 and what's going on right now. I don't think that was I don't think what George Kliavkoff talked about. I think in his mind, it sounded different and looked different than what it came out to be. It didn't look like a guy who was fully in charge of the situation and, hey, we're going to pick off teams from other conferences. I think he intended it that way, but the Pac-12 still feels very susceptible right now. And if I'm Arizona, it's kind of every man for himself right now. I mean, this is about making some big money, and you have to do whatever is best for you and your university and your programs. And I've said from the very beginning, the move to make is the move to the Big 12. If you can get into the Big 10, again, that's what you want. It's just not likely in the cards. But the Big 12 move, I think, just looking at where the Pac-12 is going, it just doesn't make sense to be part of the conference for very much longer. I mean, it just doesn't feel like it's going to get any better and strengthened in any way. Maybe there's something we're not all looking at, but
Matt, you know how much of more of a pain in the butt Eric's going to be now.
I don't even need to ask another question, right? I mean, Matt just said everything that I have been saying for weeks. All right, but I'm going to ask one. Matt, we always appreciate having you on. My last question is, in 2025, where is Arizona playing? Which conference is Arizona playing in to start? That's part one of the question.
Big 12. I just think it makes just way too much sense. Geographically, it fits. They fit with the other teams in that conference. Now, will the Big 12 look different? Maybe it will. But I think, if the question is right now, if they just join the league and, maybe take ASU with them, it fits in a lot of ways. And so I just think, in terms of basketball, obviously would be a great upgrade for a lot of those
absolutely
terms. Yes. And football wise, there's a lot of teams in that league. And so I just think it fits in so many ways. If they can figure out the money situation and, if Arizona could eventually make more money, it just makes too much sense for me.
So if Arizona goes to the Big 12, regardless ASU or not, is there a Pac anything in 2025?
I don't think so. I think
wow.
I think you're seeing the decline of a conference right now, and it will be something else. I mean, the interesting thing is going to be what happens to the Wazoos and Oregon States of the world. Are they now moving to the Mountain West because they're not very appealing to a lot of conferences? It doesn't seem like right now. I think obviously Stanford and Cal with their high academic, rankings and what people think of them as academic schools, they're going to have a place, and that place feels like the Big 10. Maybe Stanford more deserving than a school like Cal, but in terms of athletics, but I think they fit with the Big 10. Washington, Oregon are going to be appealing to a lot of different conferences, and once you start picking off teams, what are you left with? And so I just think, Pac-12 is not long for this world, it seems, at this point, and it just feels like we're kind of seeing the decline of a conference kind of in front of our eyes.
Shane, you know when you would have a class in college and you would take like an impromptu quiz and you walked out of class, you're like, I nailed it. It's kind of how I feel right now after listening to the professor.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that.
Matt Moreno from Rivals.com. Always great to talk to you. Class is now dismissed here on Wildcat Country. Thank you, Professor Matt Moreno. Saying what I've been saying, Shane. I'm feeling pretty good. It was like he took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, it's almost like you paid him to say that. Yeah.
I did not pay him. I can.
Why?
Finally, somebody gets it.
Someone on our Apple Podcast page left us a nice review, but told you to stop nagging.
Who was that?
I don't know, some guy, but you're not going to stop. I'm not going to hear the end of this now.
Yeah, Safari Gabe gave us a 5-star rating, Shane.
Appreciate that, Safari Gabe.
I love this show, but Eric Cohen needs to stop worrying and nagging.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Safari Gabe, thank you for the 5-star review. I encourage all the rest of you to do the same 5-star reviews, and you can bash me if you'd like in those reviews. That's fine. But I hope I'm not worried. And I'm not nagging. I'm just speaking the truth.
Look, Eric, I think that a potential move to the Big 12 may work out fine. I just don't think it's a brain dead simple. They absolutely have to do this. It's their only move. I'm not in that camp. Okay. But now that, you and Matt Moreno have 2-on-1 me, I feel like I'm in an unwinnable situation here.
I'm saying this, Shane, and I brought this up earlier in the show. You got to flirt with the Big 12 if you're Dave Hickey and Dr. Robbins. I mean, Dr. Robbins is a Big 12 guy from Texas. Like, he gets it.
Yeah.
I can, without knowing him or ever having spoken to him, you would have to think it's not out of the realm of possibility. He's like, I got to get my school to this conference, especially with the fact that we lost our biggest asset to the Big 10. Now, I know that the Big 12 lost their biggest assets to the SEC, but they picked up Houston, Cincinnati, and Central Florida and BYU that are coming in, I believe, next year.
Yep.
So that's great. Those are great additions. Nice. Those are nice games to have. There's not a marquee matchup there, but I think the key is I think we're going to see this week go by and ESPN and the Pacific whatever conference are not going to reach a deal, and I think you're going to see it go to market. The television rights go to market. The key for me is CBS. Fox is going to be Big 10 heavy. ESPN is going to be SEC heavy because they're taking over that CBS deal. CBS and NBC are left with nothing. NBC has Notre Dame, but they could lose that in a few years.
Yeah.
So CBS especially, you have that 12:30 Pacific spot that is wide open now. That will be, if you can get the Big 12 game of the week there, you have to take that. And that is where if the Big 12 can get Arizona and get that deal, to me, that's better than any offer they're going to get from Apple, Amazon, or anyone else when it comes to TV deal.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say, Eric, I just hope that whatever happens with Arizona, hopefully at some point fans can watch their teams on DirecTV. Don't have to, if the game is on Pac-12 Network or whatever, they can actually watch their team on DirecTV.
Oh, Pac-12 Network's dead. Come on.
No, but I'm just saying. Well, I'm hopefully every fans of whatever Pac-12 team can watch every one of their team's games on DirecTV at some point going forward.
Yeah, because now, with YouTube TV, when there's a game on Pac-12 Network, I either have to find somebody who's going to give me their login or I'm going to have to go to a sports bar. So thanks, Larry Scott and, George for not fixing it.
That's specifically the reason why I have Sling and why I'm behind. I'm always behind a minute on it or 2 minutes on everything that happens. I have to stay off Twitter during games because we're behind because of the OT.
Well, right. And just imagine if Arizona and stays in the Pac conference, and they go to an Apple or Amazon that's streaming only. Yeah. So you're going to have that dilemma. Okay. Just a couple of quick things before we wrap it up on the show. Adia Barnes made a monster flip from UCLA to Arizona. Jada Williams, 5-star point guard in 2023, coming to Arizona. Adia Barnes is such a rock star, Shane. We already knew that, but still.
Amazing. Yeah. There's no reason why, the one thing that Arizona women's basketball still hasn't done is win a conference title outright. And I remember even it was 0304, they were the co-Pac-10 champions with Stanford that year. And the Pac-10, now Pac-12, maybe Pac-10 again soon, has gotten better since then in women's basketball. Even when in the last couple of years, Arizona's finished third or fourth in the conference. So this may put them over the top. I mean, this could make them a perennial top 10 team. And it shows just how valuable postseason success is. I feel like in a way that they're sort of the women's version of Gonzaga, because Gonzaga got on the map, not because they had decent regular seasons and because they made the NCAA tournament, because they made a couple of Cinderella NCAA tournament runs. I think back-to-back years, they were like a 12 seed and they made it a Sweet 16 consecutive years. They became sort of a fan favorite. And Mark Few parlayed that into them being a consistent, very good team.
Right.
And that's easier said than done. A lot of teams, will fade after something like that. But Adia Barnes has turned that into a success. And I think their run to the Final Four, and even though it was a heartbreaking loss in the NCAA championship game, and it's still unbelievable they made it that far.
Sure.
But just the fact they made it that far, and everyone saw, Adia Barnes really became a rock star. He had the even though she wasn't intending for us to all see the double bird, I think that actually helped. It showed her enthusiasm with the team, her being able to, the photo of her, pushing her kid out in a stroller after a game, she could do it all. And so, yeah, rock star. Dave Hickey's done a heck of a job. One of his best pieces of work at Arizona has been keeping her there.
Yeah.
Because she could easily, and maybe she will still go eventually, but, pay her. It's amazing what this program has turned into after so many years of futility.
Another thing in women's basketball, Paige Beckers, who's arguably the best player in the nation from UConn, out for the season with a torn ACL, which is terrible. Remember, Arizona defeated them a couple of years ago in the Final Four. But just another opportunity. I mean, might be a down year for UConn. I believe, did they win the national championship?
No, they lost in the Final Four again.
Okay, they lost. Okay, so you never know. Maybe Arizona gets another shot this year. They have a great team. Maya Nagy, at leading the freshman class.
Yeah,
so
my thought is that they'll be a top 25, maybe a top 10 team this year, but I think 2023 is when they have a lot of that young talent, and same
with the men's team.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, they could be the same thing. Yeah. All
right. Last thing. Now, this Jada Williams was not actually going to school at UCLA, but Charlize Palacios and Janelle Miano have left Arizona softball. And of all places to go, other than going to ASU, which would have been the ultimate worst, UCLA is right up there.
Hurts.
Traitors. I mean, that's the word I would use.
You know what my immediate thought was when I saw this, because I know you mentioned that for those who don't know, Eric always puts out an itinerary of what we're going to discuss for the show, which I very much appreciate. And he mentioned this, and I thought, well, I mean, going to UCLA, their biggest rival in softball, definitely hurts. But you think about the transfers, flips to Arizona from UCLA, or in women's basketball, Jade LaVille coming from ASU to U of A. That's, if you want to talk traitor, it doesn't get any bigger than that in terms of just that kind of talk. So it hurts. I'm kind of surprised as the run that they made to the College World Series and how unified it sounded like the team was. It was interesting. It seemed like there maybe was a bit of a divide on the softball team, because I know after Char Palacios and Janelle Miano both announced they were going to transfer, you saw a lot of the current U of A softball players on Twitter reaffirm their commitment to the school, and I think that was a statement. It's like, we're not leaving. We're not giving up on this program. So, I understand it's one person's traitor is another person's, hero, whatever, but it hurts definitely them going to UCLA. I'm surprised and disappointed, but it's what it is.
I am so against, and I said this before on the show, and you probably think I'm crazy. I'm so against the whole transferring in conference. Like Arizona got one of the best players from ASU women's basketball. And I mean, it's great, but at the same time, I don't like that.
So if you had it your way, Jaden DeLora would not be a Wildcat.
I mean,
just saying.
I understand.
Goes both ways.
I think if not that, there should be you can't transfer to these three schools. Like, the school should be able to say you can't go to these three schools.
We've had this conversation before, Eric, and I strongly disagree. I just feel like
I know.
I understand where your perspective. I do, and I appreciate it. But I feel like you should be able to do, in professional sports, teams have gone from one rival to the other. It happens. I don't, if you're not going to limit it there, I don't think you should limit it at the college level.
Fair enough. That's
my opinion.
The full debate is for another show, but we want to thank our friend Matt Moreno, the professor, for joining us.
Matt probably agrees with you on that too, by the way.
I mean, hey, I'm going to take my wins where I can get them. Thanks, Shane. As always, a great show. For Shane Dale, I'm Eric Cohen. Thanks for listening. And as always, bear down.